I hope everybody has been able to download the app and the basics of the app are still working. Those of you who said you couldn't download the app at all? Yeah. App is there. Okay, okay. But were you able to scan the QR code in the beginning of the session? That is why you can't, because I think when you came in, we had already started. Right. Yes, now, so, okay, let me explain this again. Sorry about this. We are trying to make it as automated as possible considering it's a data science conference. It's very easy to take questions and we can take questions directly. That's not a problem at all. We're trying to automate this in such a way that even if you have asked such a great question, it gets recorded and it builds the data. That's the whole purpose of it. So let me explain this again. What we're saying is that for each session, there will be a new QR code. Okay, so now that Veena has finished and Achal is going to start, there is going to be a new QR code which is going to be displayed, which you will need to scan again. Okay, for those of you who came late and we had started the session, that is why you were not able to be inside the session and ask the question. So now the new QR code is coming up. So you need to scan that, take your time, take a few seconds, don't worry, we'll wait. This is now for the next session, which is by Achal. Right? So the questions for Achal will come now if you have signed into this session. Then you will be able to submit your question.
I need to dim this light and pull that light.
You want the lights off? Yeah? Okay. Volunteers, just see if you can switch the light off. Take the light. Make a lot of things work at the same time. So one of the things which is not working is the next speaker's presentation. Okay, so we're going to sort that out. But we're moving on to the next speaker. Okay, so we have Shipra Jain with us, and so Shipra Jain is going to start. And we are just opening up the QR code now, so you'll need to scan it again for Shipra Jain's presentation. Okay, so Shipra Jain's presentation is beginning. So you will need to scan your QR code for that. So whatever questions you have for Shipra Jain will be logged. Okay, Shipra Jain is building intelligent supply chain. The topic is building intelligent supply chain. Okay, so sorry about the change, but let's move on in the interest of time. Okay. I'm handing over to Shalaka to introduce Shipra. As you can see, Shipra has had an injury, but she's not let anything come in her way, and she's still here to speak to us. Okay, so there's going to be a special round of applause for Shipra's presence. Right, so Shalaka is just going to introduce Shipra and then we'll begin.
Thank you. Shipra Jain, who leads the practice of data intelligence product development at SAP Lab, works on such real-world problems and seeks AI-based solutions to achieve end-to-end procure-to-pay life cycles across heterogeneous enterprise systems. She has 11 years of experience in implementing enterprise data solutions using AI. At WITS Pune 2020, Shipra will present interesting case studies around self-driving procure-to-pay platforms. She will share technical implementation approaches, discuss challenges, and highlight the impact of supply chain 4.0 on cost, business, productivity, social operations, and quality of services. Take a walk into the future with Shipra, where you can ask the SAP Autobot, OK Auto, how my supply chain? And the system informs you all potential issues, what the system has already implemented, and then to provide a list of prioritized items which requires your attention. That's a powerful future, right? So let's begin with Shipra. And
so it is incompatible.
Hello. Hello everybody. So firstly thanks a lot Manjari for this warm and very elaborated introduction, and thanks to all of you to really find this topic important and Women in Data Science conference important and turn up on Saturday mornings over here. I really appreciate it. Okay, now moving on. Before my presentation comes up, let me just quickly ask, how many people are aware of artificial intelligence and machine learning at all? Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay. So, here we are going to see, one of the integral part of supply chain called procure to pay. This procure to pay cycle is an integral part of supply chain life cycle, and also to have an intelligent yet cost optimized procure to pay life cycle is a key KPI, organizational KPI, to be able to build innovative supply chain solutions at SAP. And that's how our journey to really reinvent our procure to pay life cycle started. Now, before I can really move on, what I wanted to present to you was how AI, artificial intelligence, can be really disruptive in supply chain industry, and how we feel or how AI is considered that the journey of intelligence could be mapped, right? So here are some stats. What says is supply chain is going to be one amongst the top 3 industries who would be most benefited by artificial intelligence implementation. Secondly, what it is understood by study from McKinsey and IDC is 50% of supply chain solutions are going to be driven by AI, and more so, it is supposed to bring 10% of cost optimization and improvement. So that's how AI is going to be a life-turning thing in this cycle of gaining intelligence and a self-driving supply chain solutions. Okay. So before I move ahead, I wanted to quickly, in the interest of people who don't understand what procure to pay is, I wanted to quickly flash what all are the sub-steps which happen in just a small step of procure to pay in the entire life cycle of supply chain. Procure to pay, as the name suggests, a material has to be procured and it has to be paid for. So bigger organizations, they need to understand what all their demands are. Those demands could be in form of goods, services, materials, products. Once that is understood, they want to identify who are the right suppliers and raise a request to them. Once that request is accepted, the goods are going to be shipped. Once it is received, it has to be paid for. So, in short, that's a simple, small story about procure to pay. But then, if you see on the slide, this one cycle actually has multiple sub-steps, multiple transactions going back and forth, multiple personas coming into picture, and multiple entities for that matter. Different organizations playing role as purchaser and requester and supplier. The payers. So let me quickly, tell you the main. Heading or the step of procure to pay from where it starts. Organizations will have to understand what their needs are in terms of materials. They would then have to understand who the suppliers are going to be. So they would want to create a purchase requisition, as the technical term goes. And once that purchase requisition with all of these details is approved, then a purchase order, another technical term, is going to get raised for a supplier who has been identified to deliver those materials to the customer. Once a purchase order has reached supplier's office, they again are going to scrutinize it and then approve it. Once approval of purchase order happens at supplier's end, then items are going to get released from their facility and they are going to be received at the requester's end. So that particular step is known as goods receipt, another technical term. Once goods has been received, what we generally do, suppose you're, ordering from Myntra, what would generally do is, what I have ordered, have I received the same thing? And then I need to understand what was the payment which was requested. Is it the right payment across the right item? So the same thing happens, a three-way process of purchase order to the material which has been received and the invoice which then a supplier is going to raise has to be matched. Another technical term and the process. Once invoice has been raised by the supplier, what has to also be understood is to really extract the meaningful information about this entire transaction. And then After the approval of that has happened, send it to account payable department. Account payable will again do some matching, again transactional thing happening there, and the payment is going to get received. And finally, reconciliation of the record. So this is the entire procure to pay cycle which has happened, which again is a sub-step, but multiple processes, transactions, processes, personas, systems, different entities coming into the picture, which makes it very manual and, so to say, inefficient. So let's move ahead. Yeah, so the first part of it, I wanted to quickly tell from this entire story that I have described, there are three challenges which are standing out. One is complexity in the processes, as I have explained. Multiple processes. Too manual, very costly, non-compliant, error-prone too because it is manual. Data. We have rightly understood that there is going to be, back and forth transaction of data and data in different formats, structured, unstructured, coming from different systems, S4HANA, ERP, RDBMS systems. It could be unstructured data in form of invoices, payment inquiries, a potential asset, but completely untapped. And then third thing is the heterogeneous systems from where all it is coming, and how the entire integration and management of that has to happen. So broadly, these three were the main challenges which we understood, which were barring us to really bring out an intelligent, self-driving procure-to-pay cycle, which can then help us also achieve an innovative supply chain solution at SAP. So what was the need? The need was to have an end-to-end process automation for this cycle, and we understood that there are going to be two building blocks for us to achieve it. One is to have a single unified platform which can help bring all these processes, different personas into a single platform. It could help us in bringing the governance and the security, the compliance, the integration, which is very much needed and becomes a big block into a single place. And secondly, to really tap the potential from the new asset, like we say, data. Data is the new oil. So an asset which is lying there and completely untapped is a waste. For that, we understood artificial intelligence and machine learning could be really helpful. So these two were the two main solutions we understood in order to really proceed and proceed towards intelligence. Okay. Now this is from there, the journey is going to be interesting, and me being a hardcore technical would really enjoy it. I hope you guys enjoy it too, and let's have more and more questions. So this is the first thing which we saw, the need to have a single unified platform which can help eradicate the really scattered and sprawled environment in terms of processes, in terms of heterogeneous landscapes. So we at SAP have a product called SAP Data Intelligence, which actually is a single unified platform to be able to build scalable machine learning solutions end-to-end for enterprise-worthy delivery. It helps us right from data orchestration, right from extracting the data from very different sources. The data could be of different formats, structured, unstructured, image, voice, streaming, any kind of data. Making the data extraction very seamless, bringing the environment and do the seamless data processing, then build really complex, big, scalable machine learning solutions in the single platform, and then also the delivery part, data development delivery. That was the motto of SAP Data Intelligence. By development and deployment, we mean by giving the required means to the different personas, data engineers, data scientists, to be able to come into a single platform and holistically perform their end-to-end work in a single place. Now here what I'm projecting is a very sample life cycle, development life cycle of one such solution. SAP Data Intelligence actually offers close to 300 plus out-of-the-box operators, with the help of which you can really construct a flow-based architecture and a pipeline-like of development model. Just drag and drop and start using those operators. Now, if those operators are not sufficient, which actually reduces a lot of coding and development and integration efforts, there are integrated IDEs with different languages like Python, C++, Java, ABAP, JavaScript, Node.js, whatnot. So an integrated environment available within the same platform where developers can really have fun. Well, that is done in order to have a productionized delivery, give all the deployment measures, and then to have a seamless integration with client business applications to be able to develop your entire solution and the model into a RESTful architecture, very much available and possible in the same platform. And again, when I say platform, it is a platform backed with all the required infrastructure support. We are on Kubernetes with Docker technologies, and all of these GPU, CPU support and scaling support is very configurable. So this one single unified platform actually helped us come up with this kind of a flow and visual based development, which made the work of orchestrating the processes and bringing in different heterogeneous systems in the single platform much easier. So really uplifted those two challenges. Now moving on, let's again come to another interesting part of how artificial intelligence really made a difference. So one of the important things to understand here is that almost everywhere where there is a possibility of having and extracting data, a fair amount of brainstorming has to be done on what we can do with that data. And that's exactly what we did with our procure-to-pay life cycle. If you see, this is an end-to-end life cycle, right from raising the purchase requisition to purchase or raising the purchase order, receiving the goods, invoice processing, and account payable. All of this process was clearly brainstormed, and we divided into three sections of how artificial intelligence can really play a role and what kind of insights or automation in the regular tasks or recommendation systems which can be built. So if you see a glimpse, at requisition level, and I'm going to take one from each of these sections, and I would elaborate that more, but to very clearly highlight, how artificial intelligence, if we think innovatively, can make a difference. We understood purchase requisition has to be raised. Now, for that, the requester, a strategic purchaser, need to have the access to all the material details and innovative way on how they can really select as to what they need and raise a request. So, catalog-based item ordering and free text-based item ordering was invented, where they just have to give a query. Based on that, images are going to pop up, and they can just make a selection real time, or just enter a free text, I need a headset. Based on that, it is going to match it to the required material group, and once the material group has been selected, it is going to directly get into the purchase requisition, which is then going to get approved and whatnot. So that was in insights and predictions. Now, again, purchase order. We need to come up with recommendations as to what purchase order or purchase requisition can be auto-approved. Again, a classification model can be very much applied over there. And to be able to understand which supplier is the right pick. If their delivery dates, their standard in the way they are delivering their services, their total cost of ownership, quality, and the entire engagement with them has been successful in the past. So based on that, give us a supplier recommendation. So all of these things, again, machine learning came in very, very handy. And one of the very, very interesting part was once the invoice has been received towards the end, after the goods receipts and whatnot, a fair amount of invoice processing was done. Close to 2,000 to 3,000 postings per day we were seeing. 15 to 20 headcounts working manually on to extracting the information out of this. And we will see how applying machine learning really reduced the effort. How applying different recommendation systems really reduced effort. So yeah, let's move on and get to another interesting part. Yeah. So catalog-based item ordering. Like I said, what we wanted was to not only apply artificial intelligence, but to do that in a more fun way and something which is more intuitive for users like strategic purchasers to use. And that's how we came up with a very interactive chatbot kind of a mechanism where conversational AI came in very handy. As you see at the top of the first image, a strategic purchaser just came in and entered, I need a headset. Based on that, a classification model was already trained in order to map the entity which is extracted out of the text which has been entered by the user and map it to the relevant catalog images. Based on that, give the suggestions. Once the suggestion has been accepted by the strategic purchaser, who is the application user, They just said, okay, go ahead and create the purchase requisition. Now before that, system wanted to really act intelligent. They didn't want to sound too dumb, so they said, okay, let me pose questions. Why do you really want to raise a purchase requisition with this and this item? So that prompted the strategic purchaser to really give the business need. And once the business need has been understood and accepted by the system, then an automatic purchase requisition got created towards the last one. So if you see a simple case, but when we thought innovatively and we brought in artificial intelligence and machine learning, it really made the entire application, a single small step in a procure-to-pay cycle, really automated and intuitive. Conversational AI, NLP, and building classification models really helped us in this journey. Okay, now this is again a really fairly interesting topic and another piece of innovation from SAP's end that had happened, which we'll see in further slides. Now towards the end, I said invoice processing had to happen, and close to 2,000 to 3,000 posting per day, which had to be manually handled by 10 to 15 FTEs. When a raw invoice like that comes in, the fields of our interest are divided into 8 different classes, namely invoice number, invoice number, invoice description, delivery, invoice delivery date, vendor name, vendor address, and then line items. Like you see, line items towards the end is like exactly what material, in what quantity, and exactly how much was the amount, right? So these were the 8 different classes which were of interest, which we wanted to extract out of these invoices and in a really automated fashion, so that less and less manual interaction has to happen, right? Now, if you really understand AI, and that's why I had asked how many people are from this background, there could be a couple of approaches. Sequential NLP, you just pass the data, let the NLP algorithm read the text data, because ultimately it is text, and give us these main entities like invoice number or date and whatnot. And other way could be OCR. Character of doing object detection, and OCR, optical character recognition. But then both of these had really integrated problems with them. Sequential NLP actually just takes one-dimensional text data, and by understanding the text, it can just give out the main entities, really ignoring the layout of the invoices. To mention, invoices could be of different. Invoices fall under structured, formatted document, where a layout plays extremely important role apart from just the text data which is available and written onto the document. So sequential NLP completely ignores that. If we say optical character recognition or object detection, okay, it retains the 2D structure of the invoice, but then it is a very plain numb extraction or conversion of the image, and where the positional information of all of these main classes would be understood, however completely ignoring the textual information, the context which mainly contains of line item detection. So both of these traditional approaches really failed, and more so in case of diverse layouts and multilingual, both of these approaches kind of failed, and that's where SAP stepped in, and they came up with this new innovative algorithm called chart grid representation. Yeah, so this is a piece of innovation, and in case you are interested, you can always read on the internet. What happens here is, one of the main asks was to retain the 2D format of the document, so as to retain and learn layout, positioning, and sizing information of the characters, so that the font size and stuff like that can be understood, right? Another thing was to also be able to retain the textual and the context information between different line item documents. For example, a line item could be, I want to raise item A of this much quantity, which is equal to this much amount, right? So all of these things are tied together per line item, so that information has to be retained. What character grid does is actually it just takes, the way it builds the semantic information is by mapping the classes, the output classes which have been identified, which were 8 in our case. It takes character pixel and maps each character pixel to the output class. So we get a list of distinct characters on the entire PDF, convert it into a one hot encoded format, and then pass it on to our learning model, which is the chart grid model. and based on that, the output should come. It actually further divides it into an encoder-decoder mechanism, and based on that, segmentation, semantic segmentation and bounding box representation came out to be handy, and we are going to see that in this slide. Yes, if you see the second side of it, if you see the second side of it, their bounding box representation and the charges representation really helped in giving the main classes information, which was invoice number, which was single word, single instance, invoice number, invoice date, and then multi-word, multi-instance items like line item description and line item quantity and amount. So based on that, charges representation. Next one. Yeah. Here I want to very quickly show how Chartbit really outperformed all the sequential and image-only models by taking the linguistic, contextual, semantic information into the picture. Yeah, and the last one actually is a very straightforward invoice object recommendation. Here you can actually read through the slide, but then again this point I wanted to highlight was a very small step to be able to match purchase order with the data with the goods which has been received and the invoice which we have received, to do a three-way mapping. How the entire manual process was reduced by just applying a simple two-stack and simple model worked, and process automation of process automation up to 80% was received. So these were a couple of things which were done in order to really gain the process automation in the end-to-end life cycle and to come up with an intelligent self-driving supply chain with the help of SAP DI as the platform, single unified platform, and really applying robust AI, machine learning, innovative algorithms, and up to 80% automation was received here. So, yeah. So, moving on, in case you want to reach me, this is the place, and procure to pay has been just one of the segments where AI application had been so innovative. So supply chain, if end-to-end we put together, AI can really make a huge disruption. With that, I want to close my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Shipra. It was wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in, first of all, salute to her spirit, because having a great injury, she has flown here and given us the wonderful talk. I
would actually want to say that it wouldn't have been possible because of my husband, Pratap.
Thanks, Pratap.
He actually really encouraged me when he saw that I had deep interest in coming here. I really didn't want to miss speaking in front of you guys. He really supported, so thanks so much.
Yeah, we have now, actually your talk was so wonderful and now we got many questions. It was difficult for me to choose 3 questions, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 questions out of this, and rest of the questions would be sent to Shipra and she would be answering them through the app, so everybody would get his answers initially. So let us begin with the first question. One of them, how is P2P management system is different from the supply chain management system? How can blockchain and ML work together for developing this?
Okay, so one thing has to be understood, like I initially mentioned, procure to pay is just one of the steps in achieving the entire supply chain life cycle. And I would just want to keep it a short statement to that, because otherwise we'll have to really understand how each of these steps really suit together to form supply chain. Now, how blockchain can be brought in? Well, blockchain, I have limited knowledge about that, but what I've understood is that when there are different personas who come into picture, in our case it was the organization where purchase request has to be raised, and another set of entity which was suppliers, and third entity was the banks who were ultimately making the payments. So when different entities come in together, with each which each performing their own responsibilities, which is very much sequential, blockchain can be really handy in order to really plan the entire communication between each of these entities. AI, as I told you, each of these entities can apply AI. For example, catalog-based item ordering was applied by the organization where they had to raise a purchase request. Invoice processing was partially done by the organization which has raised a purchase request, and also the bank who had to do their account reconciliation and whatnot. and then at the suppliers and they again wanted to apply the same AI implementation, because what they were getting was the text data which had to be mapped to different structured data residing in their ERP systems. So at each of these steps AI can be very, very handy. So
Yeah, that's really good. And despite of calling it as unified, how you handle the multilingual data? Because many people are interested to know that.
Okay, again, so there is unification was brought in order to take care of those really sprawled data and tools which happen in bigger organizations. In order to perform a task, there would be multiple tools in different organizations working on it. For example, we had SAP ERP, we had S4, we had Hadoop, we had Salesforce, we had supply chain group and another tool which they were working on. So really, in a bigger organization, this entire landscape becomes very, very complex, where all of these processes are scattered, all of these tools are really scattered, they are working in silos too. So in order to make the information and the data and the process flow seamlessly from one space to another, that's where the unification of the platform was needed. So that is one part. Now when we say multilingual, that is when we are applying an artificial intelligence application. How character grid really helped, so the unified solution is handling different problem, and multilingual problem of different PDFs coming in, that's a separate problem. Now character grid, like I said, extracts semantic information by mapping each character pixel to a class. So single characters are extracted, they're mapped to the output class, and that's how the training happens. And when that happens, it doesn't matter whether that character is in what language. All it has to do is learning in the background, and that could be dog learning too. But then when you are extracting a single character and mapping to the output class, it doesn't matter the language, it doesn't matter what layout or different layouts the information would be, provided we have given enough instances to train our model. Like in our case, for this particular scenario, we had 35,000 different formatted invoices, and a careful annotation of character to class mapping had to be done, which was a pre-labeling step. Once that is done, that was the data which was fed into the entire ML algorithm network after doing the pre-processing, like one hot encoding and whatnot. I actually didn't touch bird grid, which was another level of taking character grid to the next level. So that probably you can get in touch with me later and we can talk this separate talk altogether.
That's perfect. And the next question is actually related to this question. What happens is, while handling different languages or different character sets, every time have you faced that using sequential NLP is the perfect or is the better way instead of using neural networks?
Okay, so sequential NLP, if you understand, right, like I said, we had 8 classes. I'll take that example because that's what we have been talking about. In the 8 examples, there were really 2 sections. One was the header section, where we had invoice number, invoice date, and the total amount, right? These were the 3 single word, single instance information which we wanted to extract. Now, sequential NLP can really help them because they really want to convert this into a 1D textual information, and the data can be extracted. But then when you have a line item based structure, and those line item structure can also differ, where you have multiple items mapped to different quantity and different amounts, there sequential NLP would fail. So there we'll have to have more layout based architecture, and that's where convolutional neural networks actually played in a good role. So it really depends as to what information you're needing. If it is just single word, single instance, probably sequential NLP would be really helpful. But if you have multi-word, multi-instance, then we will have to move on to something like object detection OCR, more so into character grid and word grid kind of a model.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys. It was really wonderful to have this question, and it made me believe that you really heard what I was saying.
They did. They have many 10-15 questions coming your way. Okay.
See you guys.
Right. So we are not little. We are running quite late. There is a short tea break right now. So it's just request you to all step outside and come back literally in 5 minutes because we are ready. to start as soon as you're back. And our speakers are ready as well. So let me send
One,
them,
one
please come
minute,
back.
please. 1 minute, just a minute. Okay. In the meanwhile, the two sessions which if you are not scanned the QR code, our volunteers will be moving around. You can get the QR code scanned in the meanwhile, okay?